to Smart Cities Week 2015 here in Washington, D.C. I'm Carol Stimmel in the studio today, and I'm talking to Joseph Kopser, who is the CEO of Ridescout, also the founder, I believe.
Right. Co-founder.
Okay. So Ridescout is, it's got a lot going on.
That's right.
I first became familiar with it as an app for organizing different transportation alternatives. But I think there's a lot more going on with it. Can you tell me a little bit about Ridescout and how it's going to help us in smart cities?
Right, so today in its simplest form, Ridescout is a tool that you can use on your smartphone or your iPad or smart device of any kind to be able to just say where you are and where you're going and organize the information that answers questions about time, distance, and cost so you can make a decision. Where we're going in the future, though, is to go beyond that, which is to fill the need that people need and cities need, especially smart cities, which is to really connect it to the entire ecosystem. So it's not just one ride type or another, but to connect those ride types together, because we often take multiple modes, as well as in connecting it to your life itself. That includes your wallet and your driver's license and so many other things.
Almost like a life orchestration app that sort of grew out of the need to get around, right?
Or a personal concierge for helping you get around.
Okay, all right, great. So one of the things that I find to be very interesting and challenging, both from a technology and business perspective, is the idea that you're technology agnostic.
Right.
Can you describe to me a little bit of just how the technology works? How do you tap into all these things? Are you managing the infrastructure, or what does it look like?
It's actually important to answer the question to go back to the history of it. So the history of Ridescout came from the fact that when I was living in Washington, D.C., it's a city that has tons of options on how to get around, but if you as an individual trying to get to and from work or to and from school want to see all those options laid out side by side, it didn't exist. So on nights and weekends, I started to try to figure out what was the algorithm that brought them all together. So Ridescout today started with this idea of trying to find the optimal solution for people to be able to get from A to B. And then with every different mode, whether it's public transit or it's private ride for hire or bike share programs, we had to create a different solution for every different data type. And that is really one of the hardest parts we had to overcome. But now that's the easy part. The next part is working with cities, and that becomes the next hard part as we go.
When apps grow out of personal issues, challenges, problems like that you want to solve, we often think about the guy in the garage sort of entrepreneur, but your company is much more than that. It's grown to be much more than that. In fact, I think you just made an acquisition as well.
That's right. I mean, we did start, in the back room in the office in the earliest days when there was just one or two people and it was just an idea and a PowerPoint. Now we're just at about 50 people today, but we want to go beyond just organizing mobility providers, and we want to go into the whole ecosystem. And one of the most important components of that in the future is going to be mobile ticketing. And right now in the United States, Globe Sherpa, a Portland-based company, is the premier leader in mobile ticketing. But it's important to understand that we are agnostic, and we will be working with other mobile ticketing providers in other cities, because a city public transit agency can only choose one mobile ticketing company to actually distribute the tickets, to actually organize from where the ticket comes and where the money goes. And that's fine. We're going to be agnostic and we're going to work with lots of them, but we did acquire Globe Sherpa as part of our portfolio. They're doing amazing work in the cities that they're already in, and we've got a bright future ahead of us.
Right, so you picked out something that's sort of interesting. When technologists move into smart cities, they all of a sudden are running into all kinds of governance issues and working with different parties and functional silos and all that.
Yep.
So that's as much a business problem as a technology problem.
And a people problem, really.
What do you mean?
Well, so you're talking about silos.
Right.
So if you were growing up in a city and you entered into the public transit or the bus side of things, you often could work without ever having to interact with the taxi side of your city or even the parking side of your city. And there'll be a whole other group that works on carpooling and ride sharing and all the programs there. And if they're all under different directorates, if they all get different silos of chain of command and they all have different colors of money, that's what I mean by the people side of it, which is even if you have legislation to bring them together, you might still be dealing with decades of tradition that you have to overcome, but that's exciting. It's not anything that we shy away from, because at the end, if we can make cities smarter by bringing them all together, everybody wins. We get around more easily, and the cities and the resources that we use are done more efficiently.
Do you work with both direct to consumer and also through municipalities?
Well, we do.
So you do both?
Yeah, so what you see today in the Android Google Play Store or in the Apple iStore, what you have is the consumer-facing app of today. So here in Washington, D.C., for instance, and in 69 other cities across North America, it's a great information tool to help organize your routes and help you get around. But we also have an enterprise team that is meeting the demands of new customers that we've met over the last couple of years, which are cities, large employers with thousands or tens of thousands of employees, as well as universities. Because think about it, a university has to move people in, sometimes tens of thousands of people every day, and then move them out. It's like a little micro city, if you will, and they have all the same structures as cities. So whether it's a large employer with a huge campus, a college campus, or a city, the goals and the challenges are very similar.
You're sort of laying out the way it is now and where you'd like to be. So I'm wondering if you can do two things for me. One, sort of walk me through a day in the life of Ridescout. What one of your I'm sure there's been all kinds of surprising advantages and ways of using your app you may not have even imagined yourself. And then walk me through how I'm going to be using it in the future.
Yeah, so today where Ridescout really works well is if you're going to a different part of your own city or you're visiting another city that you've never been to. So whether it's a cross-town meeting or it's meeting a friend for drinks in a part you don't know, you can do some very quick research to figure out, is it the yellow line, is it the orange line? I'm not really in that part of town, what's the best? Or maybe it's a bus, or just what is the estimated taxi fare, or I might find ride for hire. That's what people are using it for a lot right now, but that's not the majority of your life. What you're going to see in the future is when we connect it to your wallet, when we connect it to your benefits, and we get employers who are already telling us we want to be more efficient with how we move people to and from work, campus, and our school. And right now, those organizations are paying a lot of money and seeing very little return on investment. So whether it be encouraging carpooling or trying to incentivize people not to use their parking spots, because parking spots cost a lot for employers. Right. But there's not a tool to give them to be able to connect it all together. So I may tell a person, oh, it'd be great for you to lose weight, well, or get healthy, sure. But to provide them access to a good gym, a good trainer, the means by which to pay for it, that's kind of the analogy that we're going for. So just like employers provide healthcare today, we're looking to a point where we can organize mobility. So whether it's subsidized by a smart city, whether it's subsidized by an employer or university, we see it all coming together in the future.
Right, and I personally believe that transportation is basically the most fundamental part about creating vital and healthy cities. And it sounds like really the future of mobile transportation is really about the individual life stream or the community life stream. And what is your vision for the future of mobile transport?
So first of all, it's got to be seamless. If we can make it so that a person doesn't even realize that he or she is either switching modes or switching jurisdictions or switching fares, if they don't notice it or care, I think we have a real opportunity to really move people more efficiently and more safely. You look at cities like Tokyo, Japan, they have one of the lowest death rates among pedestrians in the world per capita among 100,000 people. And it's because there are so many options to get them around safely without having to add more cars to the road, as well as being able to separate pedestrians from where cars are. Well, that's great. You can't have anything more healthy than people who are not being hurt, injured, or killed. That's just one example. But to answer your question, we really see Ridescout as fitting in nicely as a mobility service, so that it's less about what you choose, but more about enabling you to make that choice seamlessly and to connect it to your wallet, connect it to your employer. So just like companies pay healthcare benefits, they might pay mobility benefits in the future.
That's an intriguing vision, and that's really the first time I've ever spoken with somebody who's doing something with that kind of focus. We talk a lot about creating vital worlds for our urban dwellers, and this is a very specific way of doing that. So I want to thank Joseph Kopser for coming into the studio today to talk about Ridescout, and again, thank you so much. It's been an interesting few minutes.